All right, and we're back. I'm not gonna play music. I just want to get right into the rest of this interview. This is the spokesperson for ACT America, Bridget Gabriel, and she is talking to Linda Sarsour, Sarsour, and this is about Islamophobia. So here's the rest of it.
Over the media to cover these stories, and I don't have to prove to anyone that I am an American born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and that my parents chose to come to the United States from living under military occupation in Palestine. And you talk about going into a grocery store in Arlington, Virginia, because you speak Arabic and you understand the culture, and that's where you get your credibility from. I understand the culture and I speak the language too, and I've never ever walked into a grocery store or into a hookah lounge or into a community center or a mosque in this country where people were saying that they wanted to destroy America.
We know what is being put out. There has been a study after study of the material that have been found in different mosques across the country. Research after research, and these are factual research that have been presented to our government.
Do you do terrorism? Are you a terrorism analyst on terrorism in general? What about the Las Vegas shooting, the manifestos, the Oak Creek shooting where white supremacists walked into a Gurdwara and killed 6 people?
Terrorists are terrorists. Terrorists are terrorists. Well, I immigrated to the United States and I continued having the Middle East as my focus. And that's what I talk about. We are dealing, Linda, with a radical Islamic element that wants to wreak havoc on the United States. There are cars driving in New York right now testing for biological or chemical agents in the air to make sure that nothing has been detonated 24 hours a day. In New York City, in Chicago, in major cities in the United States trying to protect the country.
But will we not
that
look
is
back?
Something we need to discuss.
Will we not look back at this era as a gross overreaction to a terrorist threat that is not there in the way you're describing it to be?
The terrorist threat has been there, Brian, for years. America has been attacked under different administrations since 1979 by radical Islamists, whether we had a Democrat or a Republican.
And by people who have twisted Christianity into their own beliefs as well.
I agree with you. I agree with you. There are extremists on both sides. But when you look at radical Islam, the country is safe all these years since September 11th because our great protectors and first responders and FBI have put programs in place to protect us, and they are watching over the country. That's why we are safe.
Linda, do you feel there are specific examples of times where the media has fanned the flames of misunderstanding about Islam?
Absolutely. I mean, let's look at the Boston bombing. The first front page story came out on the New York Post of 2 young Algerian boys with book bags, calling them the bagmen. Immediately when a incident happens in this country that includes someone who just happens to be of an Arab country of origin or Muslim, we immediately start talking about terrorism and domestic terrorism. And when we have the same cases, similar cases, shootings almost every week in this country where dozens of people are being killed at the hands of guns and lax gun control, I'm more worried about getting shot by a gun or by a shooter in the U.S. than I am from a terrorist attack. The media oftentimes, including Fox News in particular, who actually does hit series on people like me for standing up and speaking my mind and practicing my American patriotism, the media does play a role in this, but it also gives, again, the platform to people who are pseudo-experts. And just because you grew up in the Middle East and just because you supposedly lived under a war doesn't make you a terrorism analyst. There are people who have extensive training in this area and at the same time can talk about very fringe Islamic terrorism without talking about Islam as a religion being a threat, the fastest growing religion in the country. And what Ms. Gabriel and her friends don't say is that many of the foiled plots that in this country have been foiled by information that came directly from the community, in some cases even the immediate family members of those who were alleged to be organizing a terrorist attack or traveling to places like Pakistan and others.
We're talking about, as 2 Americans, about how we can protect our country. We are both faced with an enemy wishing both our destruction. When those people attacked the World Trade Center, they wanted to kill Americans, Muslims, Christians, and everybody. When Zazi or Shazad wanted to blow up Times Square or the New York subway system, they were planning on killing Americans, teenagers, people taking the subways back to work or back home. They wanted to kill all of us. When you're talking about plots of mass scale, somebody parking a car about to explode in Times Square, or want to blow up the subway system in New York, or want to blow up the Sears Tower in Chicago, we're talking about the mass killing of thousands of Americans, if not millions. That is what we need to be discussing and how we can protect the country.
Isn't that fear-mongering? To use the words like thousands and millions, isn't that fear-mongering?
The idea here is that if you want to talk about terrorism, let's talk about terrorism, and let's be prepared. But let's not prepare the American people that all terrorism that happens around the world comes from the Muslim community. That's the point that I want to debate with you here.
Well,
is that the idea here that terrorism is a serious issue, but terrorism does not equal Islam. It does not equal Muslims. I am from New York. I live in New York. I was here in New York on 9/11, Ms. Gabriel. I understand the impact that 9/11 had on communities in New York City. I could have been in the World Trade Center. I could be dead here today. There were Muslim responders. There were Muslims. 75 Muslims died in 9/11, including a first responder, Salman Hamdani. So I want you to understand that if you want to combat terrorism, you need to work within the Muslim community. You need to make sure that we are part of that discussion. And the, quote, moderate Muslims that you're talking about, which are almost every Muslim living here in this country, need to be part of this discussion. But to alienate the Muslim community, create them as the other, and to start making over-exaggerations about these potential attacks that haven't happened is not the way that you combat terrorism in any country, and especially not here in the United States, in a country where I can live here and speak freely, you can stand there and speak freely, and that's the kind of country that I want to live in, and I want to be part of the discourse.
And we want to make sure we protect this country, and we do work with a lot of moderate Muslims, like I said, who even come and speak at our national conference. What we're talking about now, Islamic terrorism. When you're watching the news this morning, and you're hearing about terrorists in Syria, in Jordan, in Lebanon, at Boko Haram, in Sudan, in Nigeria, in Chad, in Libya, I can go down the list. Every single instance when you're watching the news, it's not Buddhist terrorists, it's not Christian terrorists. Yes, there are some crazy people who commit terrorism, but right now the terrorism on mass scales, the bodies piled up, the people being beheaded, even Muslims shooting other Muslims, like what we watched in Iraq, because they did not believe them that they were Sunnis. That is barbarism on a mass scale, and that's unacceptable in civilized society.
As long as you clarify and you stand up and say that the fringe extremists of any faith are only a tiny minority in the larger faith, this is what we want you to talk about. When you talk about Islam and you talk about the Quran, the 1.4 billion people across the world follow the word of the Quran. You just got to make sure that you're being specific when you talk about terrorism of any faith, but more specifically Islamic terrorism.
They're not waiting to hear your opinion or my opinion. They want to kill us both. And this is why we must discuss how we can defeat the radicals who want to kill us, who are using the Quran as their source and justification for their murder.
Why are we having this discussion if you and I are irrelevant? Why the discourse? Why the debates? Why the analysis?
Exactly.
If we are irrelevant.
Because right now what we need to be talking about is how we can defeat the radicals.
I'm going to wrap it there. We could go on and on, but I do have to leave it there. Linda Sarsour.
Well, there you go. You heard it for yourself. Yeah, Miss C. Gypsy said I want her deported yesterday. Yeah, the Bridget lady. What the hell is her name again? Bridget something. Bridget Gabriel. You know, she was cut off, but the point I think she was trying to make was that in all of these different countries, this isn't the IRA, you know, that adopted themselves to be Boko Haram, and it's not the IRA in all those different countries. It's Muslims. Those are Muslims. Those are the terrorists. Regardless if that lady wants to recognize and deal in reality or not, that's the deal. So, I mean, that's my take on it, you know. I don't know what your guys' take is, but I can tell you that's, you know, they can go back and forth all they want. Muslims are the ones that are blowing people up, you know. And then we got a bunch of Christians from the United States going over there and getting blown up, you know, and all this religious. We're going to talk more about religion here on Diametric Opposition. We will get into these religions. We will have people come on here and I will play devil's advocate, and we will see where we can get Let me see here. I want to see if we're running until 6, and then I'm off, because if so, we only got about 10 minutes. And we'll see where that puts us. See if I can clown around for the last 10 minutes. Hope you guys enjoyed the show today. Hope everybody's having a good time. Check out the Anti-Media with Justin King. Check out Mikhail Phelan with InfoWars. Mikhail has some, he caught the footage of the officer saying some interesting comments about the Constitution and constitutionalists, and them being the reason the police get MRAPs. Okay, thank you, Right Side Media. It looks like we're going to go over a little bit here, so that gives us around 19 minutes more, so you guys are stuck with me. Take that. So the Islamic question is up there. We want to know if we're being attacked. That's what it comes down to. We want to know if we are being overrun, taken over, if somebody's running an agenda in concert with our ruling class, because that's what it looks like. One of the videos they referenced initially concerning Bridget Gabriel was this one, and I want you guys to hear it for yourself and tell me what you think. Here you go.
Alaikum. Peace to you all. My name is Saba Ahmed. I'm a law student at American University. I am here to ask you a simple question. I know that we portray Islam and all Muslims as that, but there is 1.8 billion Muslim followers of Islam. We have 8 million plus Muslim Americans in this country, and I don't see them represented here. But my question is, how can we fight an ideological war with weapons? How can we ever end this war? The jihadist ideology that you talk about, it's an ideology. How can you ever win this thing if you don't address it ideologically?
Great question. I am so glad you're here, and I am so glad you brought that up because it gives us an opportunity to answer. What I find so amazing is since the beginning of this panel, which we are here about Benghazi attack against our people, not one person mentioned Muslims. We are here against Islam, or we're launching war against Muslims. We are here to discuss how 4 Americans died and what our government is doing. We were not here to bash Muslims. You were the one who brought up the issue about most Muslims, not us. And since you brought it up, allow me to elaborate with my answer. There are 1.2 billion Muslims in the world today. Of course, not all of them are radicals. The majority of them are peaceful people. The radicals are estimated to be between 15 to 25%, according to all intelligence services around the world. That leaves 75% of them peaceful people. But when you look at 15 to 25% of the world Muslim population, you're looking at 180 million to 300 million people dedicated to the destruction of Western civilization. That is as big as the United States. So why should we worry about the radicals, 15 to 25%? Because it is the radicals that kill. Because it is the radicals that behead and massacre. When you look throughout history, when you look at all the lessons of history, most Germans were peaceful. Yet the Nazis drove the agenda. And as a result, 60 million people died. Almost 14 million in concentration camps. 6 million were Jews. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Russia, most Russians were peaceful as well. Yet the Russians were able to kill 20 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at China, for example, most Chinese were peaceful as well. Yet the Chinese were able to kill 70 million people. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. When you look at Japan prior to World War II, most Japanese were peaceful as well. Yet Japan was able to butcher its way across Southeast Asia, killing 12 million people, mostly killed with bayonets and shovels. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. On September 11th in the United States, we had 2.3 million Arab Muslims living in the United States. It took 19 hijackers, 19 radicals to bring America down to its knees, destroy the World Trade Center, attack the Pentagon, and kill almost 3,000 Americans that day. The peaceful majority were irrelevant. So for all our powers of reasons and us talking about moderate and peaceful Muslims, I'm glad you're here. But where are the others speaking out? And since you are the only Muslim representative, send the applause till the end. And since you're the only Muslim representative in here, you took the limelight instead of speaking about why our government, and I assume, are you an American? You're an American citizen. So as an American citizen, you sat in this room and instead of standing up and saying a question or asking something about our 4 Americans that died and what our government is doing to correct the problem, you stood there to make a point about peaceful, moderate Muslims. I wish you brought 10 with you to question about how we can hold our government responsible. It is time we take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs and start talking.
Whoa. She said it's time at the end there, if you couldn't make it out. She said it's time to take political correctness and throw it in the garbage where it belongs and call a spade a spade. End quote. Whew. Man, that was a lot. That was a lot that she said there. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? You know? The amount, according to intelligence percentages, the amount of radicalized Islamists is the entire population of the U.S. She said 300 million. We're around 255 million here. If you notice, she also said something else. At September 11th, there were 2.4 Muslims in the United States. If you paid attention to the first report, the more recent, they said that there's 8 million in the United States. So at September 11th, we had 2.4 million Muslims in the United States. We were attacked by Muslims, and since then, the number from then to today, or probably maybe a year ago, from then till then, we went from 2.4 million to 8 million. We were attacked by Muslims, supposedly, and then we moved them in. Do you need any more proof about how your government has betrayed you? Do you need more proof? Do you really? Because they betrayed you. Your government is your enemy, you know? I don't want to be the one to tell you that. Nobody wants to be the one to say that. Nobody in America that... You don't even have to love America if you just like it, you know? You don't want to be the one to say, oh, by the way, you lost your country. But damn it, I'm going to deal in reality. It sucks, but I would rather deal in a painful reality than a stadium of creative, pretty lies. You know, sponsored by Snoop Dogg and Gatorade. I'm good on that. I don't know. What do you guys think? What do you feel? Do you think I'm what am I now? Am I what is that? What are you if you're am I an anti-Islamist? Is that what I am? My Muslim friends aren't going to like hearing that. I'll probably get a few phone calls. But hell, I want to know what you... Just look, dude, we're Americans. Forget the political correctness. What do you think? You know what I mean? I appreciate your participation in the chat room there. We got a few people that agree. They say, let's throw out political correctness and, and put it in the garbage. And, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't want to think we're under attack. I don't want to think our own ruling class threw us under the bus. But, yeah, exactly, Karen. Dealing in reality, man. I've been looking around like, I don't know. This is what I see. Now there was no Sharia law in Dearborn. I didn't see that. It looked like, it looked poor. It looked like poor America, and a ton of, I don't know what the language is. The hell is the language? What is Arabic? Is that what it is that they write in? Because that's what you see, the storefronts and stuff. It's all written, I think it's Arabic. It's written in Arabic. So, you see a lot of that. Just like if you go to Florida, you're going to, the Miami area, you got to go west of Miami. Into Hollywood, Miami Beach, and then west Miami, Hollywood, Miami Beach further. Everything's, Cuban. Everything. And we've got Chinatown, and we've got, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. There are some sustaining differences, though. They enjoy being here. They bought into Americanism, and, Urdu? Is that Urdu? Or Farsi Arabic? Urdu. I can't imagine I'm saying that correctly. I don't really know what they write in. I have no idea. I can barely wrap my head around English. So, I may not be the source for that, but it's a pretty language. It looks really cool. Kind of looks alien, or maybe Egyptian or weird something. It looks cool. Couldn't tell you what it says. But, they write in Arabic and they speak in Farsi. In Urdu. Oh, that is how you say it. Okay. All right. Urdu. U-R-D-U. Urdu. See, we're all learning things here today. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Miss C. Gypsy. Once again, I would be lost without you. So, yeah, it looks cool, but, if these people didn't have their own neighborhoods, their own publications, their own, societies, they're a society within a society. Chinatown is, I don't know if you guys know this, if you've ever been in, like Chicago area or the one out in Cali or wherever, but they, it's like, that's commerce. And then you'll see those same Chinese folks at the movie theater later. You know what I mean? They're American. It's just they work in Chinatown. They own a store in Chinatown, but they're going to be at the baseball game. You know what I mean? They're going to be at the basketball game. You're going to see them at the pizza shop. The Arabs, not so much. They could be aliens. I was hearing this whole thing about lizard people. And as much as I don't want to think there's a bunch of tricky reptilian people around us, because that's freaking spooky. Look, if there's aliens around us, I want them to be different in most ways, because to think that there is an alien and they're sneaky, it just freaks me out. That's not cool. But if they're responsible for us destroying our planet, destroying ourselves, polluting the water and the air and the land, and just, we got plastic floating everywhere. We got trash. We've covered the entire earth in trash. We look like a scourge. If you pull away from the planet, right, and then hit rewind and go back to when the first humans were here, and then press play, and then press fast forward, you would see us acting like a virus. We go to an area, we take out the trees, we rearrange the landscape, we build our houses. We're like a smallpox virus in that way, For as evolved and as enlightened as we like to liken ourselves to be, we just haven't figured out that we're not living on a planet, we're living with a planet. And this is my personal belief, if we don't start to take care of what it is we do here, this planet will shake us off like a bunch of fleas. Our weather patterns will change, whether it's freaking global warming or global cooling or whatever. It'll be a global kick in our backsides is what it'll be, if we don't pay attention. Anybody else notice that we used to have a jet stream and now it's gone? Anybody else ever notice that? Anybody see that? Because I used to pay attention a lot to the weather. We used to basically have this jet stream. It looked the same. It looked the same forever. Haven't seen it in a few years, maybe a decade. It's gone. I don't know. Am I the only one that thinks this way? Am I the only one that feels this way? You know, I'm not exactly a tree-hugging hippie, you know. If I gotta burn plastic to stay alive, I'm burning plastic, you know. But yeah, I don't think we're doing well. Yeah, and our we do shift on our axis. If you talk to anybody in the airline industry, they'll tell you we just recently had to change all of the if you guys notice all the construction happening at airports, the landing strips. We had to change the paint on the landing strips and had to adjust everything. And it used to be like every airline pilot knew, you know, the computer says that it's here, it's not, you have to compensate 15 degrees or whatever. And it would change annually or whatever. And now we've had huge changes. But nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about it on any kind of mass scale. You know, look, again, I don't care if it's global warming, global freezing, global raining, whatever it is, whether it's man-made or Earth, we better start to pay more attention to it. We're going to see a fierceness with our storms that our infrastructure is not designed to handle. And we've already started to see the signs of it, you know. We got things called land hurricanes, which is just a BS excuse for, you know, if we give it a name, it'll make people feel better. Like Arctic blast. No, that is the destruction of our natural weather patterns, whether you like it or not, whether you think Fox News tells you the truth about everything or not. Take a look at a radar. You know, discern it for yourself. Go back. Look at the 1980s, 1990s, you know, and just that short time period, you can see there's an incredible change. And you not talking about it, humanity not talking about it, only lends credence to any theology that talks about how incredibly incapable and incompetent we are as a species to maintain our own self-preservation. You know, all the weather modification, yeah, Karen with HARP. You know, I mean, you can look up weather modification now. They're not hiding it. You know, go to Google, type in weather modification, see if Jeremy's a liar. But it's actually in our bills and stuff. We had to allocate certain money and things like that, and it has to do with national defense and cloud seeding technology that got better. There was a man that created HARP that was actually, he realized instead of cloud seeding, you could use the Earth's natural electricity and harness the electricity that moves in our atmosphere, in our stratosphere, and in our ground. And basically, you build a bridge between those, and it brings clouds over at a much faster rate too. And you can, you know, bring rain to drought-stricken areas. Well, of course, he dies. You know, that wasn't suspicious. And then the United States Air Force takes over all of his stuff. And next thing you know, we have HARP. You know? I don't know. Move along, people. Nothing to see here. Ho Chi Minh Trail, Vietnam. We flooded it and we were proud of it because it was a major supply line for the Viet Cong. Look it up. Ho Chi Minh Trail. We've been doing weather modification for a long time, people. Yes, your government does those things. And as my friends from Russia like to tell me, if the American people think waterboarding is the worst thing their government does, then they're all going to collectively die of a heart attack if they ever find out what our government actually does. So let's wrap those things around our brains. Thank you for joining me today. This is Diametric Opposition on the Right Side Media Network. Check out any small business in your area. We got one here you can help out with, Sassy Chicks New and Rustic Trading Post. Check them out. Give them a click on Facebook there. I'll be back tomorrow between 3 and 6. I appreciate everybody. C. Gypsy, Karen, Joe, Wookum Darling, Doodle Dumpling, Moofy Cutie, Tyler, Keith, everybody on there. Appreciate you guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. And just keep talking. Talk. As long as we're talking, we might be okay. And maybe we can get this place back to good. All right, guys. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for joining Diametric Opposition.